Welcome to another video. Today's video, I'm going to be starting the sanding process on my 67 Mustang to get it ready for paint. Stay tuned. As you all can remember from all the other videos, I've been working on my 67 Mustang for a long time. I have owned this vehicle for probably about 14-15 years, and maybe about 10 years ago is when I started kind of a restoration upgrade kind of journey on it. So originally the main thing, I had bought parts for it and I had gotten a new engine, things like that. But what really started this whole process is, I think at some point I opened the hood, I went to close it, and one of the hinges broke, so it wouldn't close. Like, it literally was that corner of the hood. And this is not the factory hood. I did have the factory hood, which was a metal hood, and so that corner was just sticking up. So I ended up having to, I removed both of the hinges and just took the hood off, and I drove it like that for probably like 4 months or so. I remember it was even during the winter. We had a snowstorm. I think I had about 6 inches of snow on the engine bay because this used to be my daily driver. I went to, at the end of the day, went to go home, and it was, so cold with the snow that my throttle would get stuck. I remember, like, I would go to push it and it would be stuck, and then it would let loose. But if I, let go of the throttle and sat like at a light, it would pretty much like get frozen. I had to kind of push it hard. Anyways, at that point I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put the new engine on, take the old engine out. So that was kind of gonna be the gist of it. And then originally, and there's no videos, but when I bought this car, it had a dent. Let me remember, I think here on this door, on the driver door, in this area had a dent, like someone hit a pole or something. So it was pretty noticeable dent. I, banged it out as good as I could, a little bit of Bondo, and I had painted the car. There's some pictures of when I had it. I might put one in here, we'll see. But the dent, you could still see it a little bit. Because it hit right this corner, and actually I think it was more in the middle, right around here. And so, it's hard when it's in a corner to really get that dent all the way out. So you could kind of tell there was a dent there. And then on the passenger side, it was almost the same thing. Like, they hit a pole, but it was right in this area. So you could really see the dent right in this corner. And that corner, I tried to pull it out as much as I could, but you could still see it. The factory fenders had quite a bit of Bondo on them. And so here on this whole area on both sides, the Bondo was cracked. And even though I sanded it and put a little tiny coat of Bondo and sanded it again, and then I painted it, and maybe, down the road, 6 months later, you could see like spider cracks all around. It wasn't too bad, but it was still noticeable. So I thought, well, let me get new fenders and new doors. And so I got mostly the doors for sure. So I got new doors. I ordered them at that time. And then I said, well, let me get new fenders because I'm doing all this. I'm going to have to repaint it. Let me get new fenders. At the time, I really wanted to do this kind of body kit, which is kind of like a Shelby or something else. And I kept looking at them, and they're pretty expensive. I know these kits go for, for fastback or coupe to get a kit. And there's a lot of manufacturers out there, things like that. But at the end of the day, they are fiberglass. You're still going to have to make them fit and tweak them and cut and sand and do some custom work. So, I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you get them from. But I kept looking on eBay. I think they were like $3,000. I don't know what they are now, but they used to be about $2,900. And one day out of the blue, it was on sale. I think it was down to like 1600. It was the last one, whatever. So whoever had it, whoever was selling it, were just like, let's get rid of it, I guess. Or so I bought it. So I ended up buying that, and so that kind of started the whole. Well, I'm gonna do all that, and so, you know, little by little, I ended up doing the floor pans because they had a little bit of rust where you put your feet on the driver's side a little bit more and the passenger side, not too bad, but I ended up doing the floor pan on both sides. And on these Mustangs, you can do just each side kind of individually, leave the tunnel was fine. I ended up doing, the other part was the taillight panel, and that's because it had rust right on top where the trunk closes on that side. This side here. So I replaced the taillight panel, and then the filler panel, I guess they call it, this little piece that goes between the trunk and the back window. This one had holes right along where the window is, not a lot, but some on the corners, and then also here on the bottom, a couple of holes. So I did all that, and anyways, it's been a work in progress for a long time. Long story short, I have already done a couple of coats of sanding, which I haven't showed, but it's gonna be the same process. I did show videos of me putting a body filler around the body kit here to just make it smoother transition, just flow better. And it looks pretty good. I mean, it's a good 10-footer. On camera, it looks great. It looks amazing, I think. It's not till you apply color that you really can see all those little imperfections, but I'm sure I'm gonna have some. And I have been trying to fill, usually on fiberglass, there's tiny little pinholes that you see, and I don't think the camera will pick them up. Maybe, let's see. There's one right there. It's really, really small, but sometimes they're really hard to see when you have primer. And once you paint your actual color, they stand out a little bit more. So today, what I did already, I shaped everything with like 180 grit, and then I redid a little bit of Bondo here and there, and then I did everything with 220. I think twice the whole car. I reprimered the whole car again. I think I might have shown that. I'm not sure if I did a video, but I did reprimer the whole car again. And then the last thing I did was 2 passes with 320 sandpaper, which makes it pretty smooth. Everything looks pretty decent. I mean, all the body work, and it might not be 100%. It might not be perfect. I am not a, body shop. I am not a professional. I just do this myself because, saving money. So I did fill a little bit of holes that I saw here and there, and before I sanded the second coat, I believe. So it looks pretty good. And what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna mix a little bit of putty, and I'm gonna try to go, especially on the flares, like I said, that's the place that there's the most. And that's just because I had to put a little bit more Bondo to make it kind of flow better. So I'm gonna spend some time and try to get some of those little pinholes filled on all 4 corners, and then I'm gonna sand it with 400 sandpaper. So, and this is just what I'm doing. You can, do whatever if you're gonna paint your own car, but I'm gonna do 400. I'm probably gonna do about 2 passes with the 400 on everything. So I'll put a little bit of filler where I see, do a whole pass on the car with 400 grit, and I am using sanding blocks for pretty much all the sanding. I have multiple different ones here, but mostly the thicker one, the longer one. I used especially the longer one with the coarser sandpaper to get it kind of as flat as I could. And so, this shorter ones, now that it's not really going to be cutting that much, I'll probably use those. So I'm going to do 400 twice. So body filler 400 probably see if I need to body fill a little bit more, another 400. And then at that point, a lot of these burned through spots where I went through the primer, I'm gonna just spot primer them. Some of those small spots, there's not that many. And I'm just gonna use probably a high fill can. Maybe I'll make some primer, I don't think so though. And then I'll primer all these spots again, just to get them covered. And then I'm gonna do 600 grit. And by this point, it should get me pretty much close to, if not ready for spraying paint. I am gonna need help later on to take the hood off, because since I had painted the underneath, but I had to cut the hole, so I'm gonna have to repaint underneath where I cut the hole and sand it a little bit. And then same with the trunk, I'm gonna take it off, repaint the corners, like the underside, and I'm gonna paint those off the car. And then I might redo the jambs, because I did all the door jambs, but since I reprimered the whole car, only a little bit of the primer got in there, but I do have to clean all that, but I may mask everything and then redo the door jambs to get all this back to red like it was, because some of the spray from the primer got in. So I won't do like the whole inside of the doors, but probably just like the jam here, maybe try to get in here. We'll see. Not a big deal. I'm sure when I paint the car, the spray is going to get in there and make everything kind of turn red, but that's the plan. So enough talking about it. Let me get to mixing some Bondo. I'm just going to throw on a time lapse for that. It's just mixing it and filling it in and then sanding it. And then we'll go back. I'll show you kind of where I'm at before the second coat of sanding, and we'll go from there. right, so this was one pass with sandpaper. I am completely dusty, so if you do this at home, I was gonna take the car outside, but it's really hot out there, and so I just did it in here, which is not as hot. It's in the garage, although it's gonna create a bunch of dust, which I do have to, I'll just vacuum everything, the floor and everything before painting, but it just takes time. Some of the body filler, it was just like I said, to cover the little dots, but it looks pretty good. I did burn through a couple of spots, but that's okay. That just means that you know, these couple of spots were higher, that's why I sanded through. But I'm probably just gonna see if I need to put a couple of body filler in a couple spots, but if not, I'm just gonna go through and do another coat of 400 sanding, and then once I do that, I'll probably wash the car again, make sure you get all of that off, and then do the 600. But overall, I think it's pretty good. I did think about stopping before, well, once I do the 600 grit before paint, because I had a little dilemma. Either I could paint the car and then, you know, figure out like the headlights and all the lights are pretty much set up, except if I do put fog lights there in the middle. But I do have an oil cooler that I want to put to the engine, and my plan was to do it afterwards, figure out where, but I was thinking of figuring that out now, because if I do have to drill and anything gets cracked or anything, I can still do some body work before paint. So I may pull that out and just figure out if I'm gonna try to fit it down there or try to fit it in that corner, kind of how the transmission cooler is in here. And I did make a video on installing the transmission cooler here, but I may do the engine oil cooler right over there on that side. So it is a little bit thicker, but I think there is enough room back there. And if not, I do have that other junior cooler that I use for the Challenger for the transmission cooler. I could use it for oil as long as the lines work. That one does have a fan built in, but it's thinner itself. It's a little bit smaller, so I may figure that out. But for now, I'm going to dust everything off and then start another pass with sandpaper, which is gonna take a couple more hours. And then I'm not gonna primer all these spots probably until a little bit before paint, when I have the car mask, so I don't get primer on other, you know, glass and stuff. But it's no big deal, that I can just kind of spray it, you know, it should dry, and then just hit it with the 600 after. So let me wipe it, get after it, and then do another pass. Okay, went ahead and sanded the car one more time with 400 grit. So at this point, I also removed the hood and the trunk, so they're over here. I just wanted to sand here on the inside, so just to make sure, I'm gonna, this has already been painted, so I'm gonna mask right at this corner, and then I'm gonna repaint this outside edge. That way I can get right on the side here. Because if I would have painted this in the car, this would have gone some coverage from the paint, but most of it would have been kind of like the dust that kind of falls in, and it would not have been as nice. So I wanted to paint this side, and then I'll flip it over and paint the other side out of the car. Same with this one. I'm just gonna paint around the edge really, and then under here, just where I cut the hole for the air filter. Everything else, I mean, it's under the hood and it's painted pretty nice. It's just really dirty, but if I clean it, it's really nice and shiny and everything, so there's no need to really repaint the underneath. As a, you know, driver, it's gonna, I mean, as you can see, the engine is pretty dirty as it is because I've been driving it. But overall, I'm ready to kind of start moving to the next step, which would be start taping, things like that. Same with here on the trunk. I wanted to paint here on the inside. So again, if I would have left the trunk on, this would have not gotten as nice coverage as when I paint the car. I can get right in here, so it'll make it easier. Plus I have this big flat area not in the car, because usually that's where you get a little bit more of dust, things like that. Just, you know, I'm not painting in a paint booth, so I'm only gonna have the roof. With this one as well, I wanted to make sure, and I'm gonna mask right here on the edge. Maybe I'll mask through the inside, we'll see, but I can mask here on top because this is painted really nice. And then I need to remove the gas cap and the filler neck, so that way I can just finish sanding and paint underneath that filler neck. I don't want to actually paint the filler neck. So overall it's good. I did try here, and I didn't show it, but I had burned through the primer in this area, and I did a little bit of filler, I think around this area here, where there was a low spot. And so I just sprayed a little bit of primer before I sanded it the next time. And the camera, you can kind of see the different shade because the spray primer is different than the other primer. But overall, it's nice and smooth. And that's how everything else is going to be. All those burnt through areas, once I just spray a little bit, it's just going to be a uniform. And then here on the engine bay, same thing. I'm going to paint all the way a little bit in. So I just got to mask all the way around. But I won't have this whole area, the hood, to be trying to paint it this way. When I paint the top side of the hood, I'm probably gonna either angle it on this little I don't know what you call this, stand, or I may put the bolts and hang it so it's vertical. I prefer it to be vertical, and I can just, you know, paint up and down. But if not, I can just kind of angle it in here, paint it in here. So I didn't mess with the oil cooler yet. I just figured I was sanding. If I stop to do that, that's just gonna derail my project. So I'm just gonna do it afterwards. If I have to cut, you know, whatever happens, happens. But I'm gonna just continue to do the paint. And so now I'm just gonna, when I have another day, start masking things, because the 600 grit, I just need, even if I do 2 coats, that shouldn't be too hard. And just start masking. Probably move the saline out of here. I may move the car on the center and then just keep it, start masking it, start getting it ready. The hood and all that I can pin on this side. So hopefully here soon I can get it sprayed, but I think that's gonna be it for this video. My day is gone, so you know, it just takes time. I'm gonna have to come back to the other sanding, which would be kind of similar, but I may do another video of the last final prep, masking everything, and then maybe I'll put it together with the painting. We'll see. But if not, then I would make another video of the last prep and everything, and then a separate video of painting. So anyways, thank you for watching. Any questions, comments, leave them below. Subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.